Greetings and welcome to this edition of Faith to Live By. I'm Pam Christian, your host for the next 45 minutes or so, where I will help us explore current events from a biblical and prophetic perspective, so we, as God's children, can know how He wants us to respond. So much still going on at breakneck speed. For the last couple of weeks, I've helped us explore the Israel-Iran conflict, and while there is still a great deal we need to explore to know what God is doing in the Middle East, today I want to shift our focus to the one big, beautiful bill that was recently passed. My guest today is Alex Newman, one of the few top Christian journalists who deserve our trust, who will discuss the bill with me. And please keep in mind, my interview with Alex was recorded on July 2nd, before the bill was actually passed. However, before I bring Alex on, I want to share with you some of the unbelievable realities of the Washington, D.C. establishment that President Trump and his cabinet must work with while still pressing on to deliver on his campaign promises. Given everything I've learned, I can't help but wonder how much we are observing today is actually planned theater. There's the Elon Musk and President Trump feuds. The FBI and Department of Justice recently claiming there is no Jeffrey Epstein client list, that Jeffrey Epstein definitely killed himself, and there is no case. And President Trump's hardcore push to get the one big beautiful bill passed by July 4th. Why are all these upsetting matters surfacing now? And how much of it is real and how much of it is theater? There's just too much in all of this that doesn't add up. And I certainly don't think we, the people, have everything we need to be able to accurately determine truth, which is very sad and frustrating. My regular listeners will recall I had Dr. Jan Helper Hayes on the program in the past, and I am trying to get her back, but I'm still waiting to hear. But watching her recently on Elijah Streams, I heard her reference a book by former Congressman Ken Buck titled Drain the Swamp, How Washington Corruption is Worse Than You Think. And yes, I've also contacted Ken's publisher twice, wanting to have him on my show, but I'm waiting to hear back from them as well. Regardless, I have to tell you, as I read Ken Buck's account of how Congress functions, it was all I could do to keep from getting violently sick. Forget the reports of drugs and sex behind closed doors in the Capitol, or schemes from within our government designed to weaken and overcome we, the people. Reading Ken's book, learning how the day-to-day operations are actually accomplished among those we believe we have elected to serve we, the people, was beyond appalling. Given what Ken Buck revealed is practiced and has been commonplace for decades upon decades, I truly conclude the only reason the United States government still exists is the grace of God, working in and through the very few good and righteous, brave men and women who have found a way to go against the status quo and miraculously still remain in office and in a position to oppose the establishment while seeking to bring restoration to our government. So, let me set the stage for what you will hear today. First, I admit I'm an optimist, and I believe God's Word over and above anything I see or hear. Still, what I see and hear warrants discerning considerations. So, as I'm seeing and hearing upsetting reports that seem to be taking us backwards and away from justice and accountability, based on what God has said, I must wonder if it's intentional theater intended on extracting even greater evidence to expose even more corruption to be able to hold responsible parties accountable. Ken's book uniquely helps us understand what the white hats in our U.S. government are actually up against so we can better pray for them to succeed. We need to know about the long-standing conditions of operations in the swamp. Then, with the input of my guest, Alex Newman, I want us to consider some of the aspects of the one big beautiful bill. Lastly, I want us to consider what President Trump has done with his first term and now just the first 6 months of his second term, and how it could all be seen as a grand strategy in response to the deep state opposition and proponents of a one-world government. As you hear what I share today, ask yourself, could it be that everything we are seeing is intended to wholly distract the evil perpetrators, while God works through his appointed people to accomplish his will, which he has repeatedly revealed through his prophets is to take us into his golden age? Then I want you to allow excerpts from current prophecies to help us all in our conclusions. But before all of that, I have to use these last days before deposits become due to encourage you, if you have been thinking about it, now is the time to assure your place by signing up to join us with our Greece tour. We have both a 7-day ground tour and a 4-day cruise of the Greek islands, allowing you to decide to do one or the other or both. Deposits for the cruise portion are due this month, so if you've been contemplating joining that, you'll want to make your reservation now. Refunds are available up to the deadline, and you can learn about how to reserve and how to make cancellations and receive refunds using the link in the show notes. Again, the cruise deposit is due in July, and we have a bit more time for the ground tour. If you want to be sure you are on the reservation list, send me your email to faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com with the words Greece in the subject line. Place all of your contact detail in the body of the email, the total number of people in your party, and if you want the ground tour, the cruise, or both. Get that to me right away and expect a reply so we can confirm your reservation and learn of any special needs or requests you may have. Space is limited, and with deposits now becoming due, we expect to see it fill up fast, so be sure to email me. Okay, now let's start with understanding congressional operations from Ken Buck's book. Ken served as congressman from Colorado from 2015 to 2024. He has written the book titled Drain the Swamp: How Washington Corruption is Worse Than You Think. If you want a copy for yourself, I ask you to use the Amazon link in the show notes in support of me and my podcast. The foreword of the book is written by former Senator Jim DeMint, who wrote, quote, "The D.C. swamp is programmed to destroy anyone who tries to disturb the status quo. There are really big special interest groups that guard their nests like vultures. Big union bosses for government workers will spend millions to defeat anyone who dares to cut government spending or eliminate a wasteful government program. Big corporations will fight tooth and nail to protect their tax loopholes, credits, and targeted tariff waivers. All of the big hospitals, banks, corporations, and media moguls actually push for more complex regulations because it gives them an advantage over their smaller competitors. Washington, D.C. is a swamp of murky water filled with terrapins, alligators, and venomous snakes, only we call them lobbyists, congressmen, and bureaucrats." End quote. Okay, that paints the picture for us. Now let's consider what Ken Buck writes about the actual operations of the swamp creatures. I provide you the following 7 points with brief explanations, all from Ken's book. Number 1, the United States government budget plan is designed to deceive the American people. Well, this first point needs no explanation. It's as plain as it can be. Let us fully understand the men and women we elect to serve us willfully deceive us. I wonder if that alone isn't a violation of their oath of office. Number 2, Ken writes, most Americans don't realize that influence in Congress comes with a price tag. Members are required to pay for committee assignments. Chairmen are required to pay for their chairmanships. The speaker, leader, and whip compete for the leadership positions and then must pay millions of dollars for the honor of holding the office. Lobbyists, corporations, and wealthy individuals who need something from Congress raise the money. For Republicans, all the money goes to the National Republican Congressional Committee, supposedly to help members get elected. When members don't vote the right way, the funding dries up from the donor class. Members are pressured to step down from their committee assignments, and the NRCC refuses to help finance their campaigns. Kin calls this the pay-to-play system. As a result, members routinely vote for defective legislation in order to please party leaders and get money for their re-election campaigns instead of doing what is right for America. Kin writes, quote, "I am a Republican, but the moment we put party over principle, we've lost. Both major political parties are guilty on this one. That's why Kin calls the problem we face today bipartisan bankruptcy. Both parties have no problem letting the debt rise if that means they can avoid taking tough stands or making difficult decisions." Number 3, freshman congressmen and women are beguiled into the pay-to-play system from the start. Their very first week, they are greeted with a succession of elaborate dinner parties of the fanciest fare in the most elegant and historical settings, designed to reveal the available perks of the club they can belong to, providing they cooperate with the long-held methods of the political party operations by wholly supporting the party objectives. Number 4. Highly esteemed veteran congressmen and women are featured speakers at the week-long lavish dinner parties and more, providing the freshmen veteran mentors to imitate. The message is clear. The fruits of victory are in the ability to pass bills or bring money back to the districts that would help us win re-election, devoid of any focus on winning for Team America. Instead, it's all about winning for Team Republican or Democrat by playing the Washington game, and I'll add, conversely, those congressmen and women who don't play the game are given limited party resources for their re-election and are withheld otherwise available funds to do the very jobs they were elected by we the people to do. Number 5. Congressmen and women are seriously pressured into playing the game. The political parties are more interested in imposing its will over their respective congressmen than tackling the national debt or other pressing concerns, even punishing their members for failing to toe the party line. One of the many examples included the former Speaker John Boehner retaliating against Congressman King, who did not vote for him to be Speaker, by rescinding his previously approved trip for travel to Egypt to discuss Christian persecutions in Egypt. To King's credit, he kept his commitment to meet with the Egyptian president by paying for his trip himself. A Republican aide who had clearly drunk the pay-to-play Kool-Aid rationalized the speaker's actions, stating, quote, "Taxpayer-funded travel and other perks go to those members who deserve to be rewarded and not members who oppose the broader GOP team." End quote. Members who want to play the DC game are often assigned to appropriations, energy and commerce, or ways and means because they can raise more money for re-election as members of these influential committees, and they can avoid having tough ideological decisions on their voting record that would, in all likelihood, cause their constituents back home not to want to vote for them again. Number 6. If representatives want to merely serve on a committee, they have to raise money for their party. The amount varies depending upon the committee role. The example is if you want to serve on a B or a C level committee, a GOP House freshman member must raise $220,000 every 2 years. Veteran members serving on A committees must raise more than twice that amount, $450,000. That's right, almost $250,000 to do what the people elected them to do. As it is, some members of Congress spend at least half of their time fundraising to keep their dues paid and campaign coffers full. If you become the chair of a B committee, you're now expected to raise $875,000 a year for the NRC. Chairing an A committee means you must raise $1.2 million. The higher your role in the House leadership, the higher the price tag, with Speaker of the House requiring $20 million a year for the party. Committee assignments, then, are less about qualification than they are about cash, or to put it another way, cash is the chief qualification, our elected officials need once inside D.C. as members of the establishment swamp. The real partisanship in Washington, D.C. isn't between political parties or about political principle. It's within parties, where leaders punish members who don't play the game. In Congress, the consensus has been it's better to sink the nation with debt than to rock the boat with reform. And number 7, still quoting Ken, what if I told you executive branch agencies raised $516 billion in user fees, fines, and settlements in 2015 with no oversight from Congress? Would you believe it? It's true. According to the Office of Budget and Management, federal agencies collected more than $500 billion in addition to the money Congress appropriated for them. That's equivalent to 1/6 of the entire federal budget and almost 1/2 of the entire discretionary federal budget amount. The agencies collected $516 billion in fees in a fiscal year when the American people saw Congress run a budget deficit of $439 billion. Congress had nothing to say about where the money went because the truth is, we don't know where it went. By failing to fulfill its responsibility to provide accountability and oversight, Congress has created a for-profit government in which agencies involved are incentivized to generate more revenue for themselves. The more money they can charge the American people, the more money they have to spend. And let me interject here, I can't help but believe this kind of activity is indeed a violation of their oaths. Ken writes, quote, if we're going to drain the swamp, we need to reverse its status quo operations. We need to take power away from Washington and return it to the people. President Donald Trump campaigned on the slogan, drain the swamp, and there's a reason to think he can. But my hope is not in any one person. My hope is in the American people. President Trump will succeed in draining the swamp to the extent that he restores power to the people and authority to the states and local government. End quote. There is so much more in his book that I recommend you get a copy, and please do use the Amazon affiliate link in the show notes to get the book. That way you'll help support me and my work too. Ken Buck is right not to place his hope in Donald Trump. However, his hope in the American people will only prove worthy if we the people seek God to help us in restoring our nation with the same intensity our forefathers did in the founding of our nation. Now, let's consider President Trump's efforts to restore power to we the people as one nation under God. My guest, Alex Newman, helps us consider the one big beautiful bill that at the time I interviewed Alex had not yet passed. Let me play that interview now, and then I'll come back with some comments for our consideration, and then I'll close today's podcast with God's prophetic words for us to consider in these very critical days. Alex Newman, thank you so much for giving me just a few minutes of your time for this particular podcast. I want to talk about the Big Beautiful Bill. I've got some things about it that I like, and I've got some things about it that I question. I just really don't know what to think, and I wanted to get your opinion.
Well, thank you, Pam, and I'm in the same camp. There are obviously some good things in there. I mean, I'd never say no to a tax cut, right? Woohoo! I'm in favor of all tax cuts, everywhere, always, and anywhere. But the reality is tax cuts need to be paired with cuts in spending. We need more spending cuts. And as it is currently constituted, this bill is a monstrosity of spending. It seems like every member of Congress had their vote purchased by offering, all kinds of, they used to call it pork. Now I think we're not supposed to call it pork, but I'm going to call it pork because it's pork. And we don't have the money for that, guys. The U.S. government is $40 trillion in debt. There's never been any entity in the history of humanity that had as much debt as your government has right now. Once you factor in unfunded liabilities that the U.S. government has, we're talking $200 trillion, right? There is no conceivable way that that is going to be paid. And as the Bible tells us, the borrower is slave to the lender. They are making us slaves. They are borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars on the backs of every one of your children and grandchildren. This must stop. And so I'm very, very disappointed with the out of control spending. And some of the programs in there, unfortunately, are very troubling. And even Trump has spoken out about some of these. You know, some of the silly green tax credits that came from the Biden era. This stuff should not be in there. And I think it speaks to a bigger problem with Washington, D.C. in terms of the deep state being able to get what it wants, no matter who's in power. And it also speaks to the fact that most of our members of Congress, even though every one of them in theory put their hand on a Bible, or I think a couple did a Quran, which is an outrage, but they put their hand on a Bible and swore an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. And of course, they're not doing that, right? Step one would be read it, and if something violates the Constitution, don't vote for it. Very, very few are willing to do that. So that's very troubling. And I think really it shows that the Republicans, even just a few years ago, we're saying we're not going to do these big, huge bills anymore. We're going to do single issue bills where everybody can be on record voting on that one issue. We need to go back to that. That way, everybody is clearly on the record what they voted for, what they voted against, and we just don't have the money for this. So, like you said, Pam, there are some great things in this bill, some things that need to be passed, frankly. I mean, these are not optional things. We've got to get some of these things passed. And I'll add as well that there's too much of Trump's agenda that is not in this bill. So much of what he's doing right now that's really, really good, using executive orders, using regulations, using rollbacks
Tariffs.
of regulations, tariffs. A lot of this stuff is not in the bill. And this may be our only chance to get it. Right, we've got the midterms coming up in the not too distant future here, and if Republicans lose the majority, and I would say frankly we don't have a Republican majority. It looks like we do, but we've got a rhino majority.
Yeah.
And if we lose this opportunity to enshrine some of these things into federal law, they will be reversed the moment we have another deep state Democrat president or another deep state Republican president. All the good stuff on climate, education, the fixes that he's put in for the military, all that stuff will be reversed day one, just like it was when Biden took office. Literally day one, reversed all of it. So we've got to get this stuff enshrined in federal law. So frankly, I'm not as interested in seeing this thing pass like right away. I know there's all kinds of pressure on these guys. You got to do it now. You got to do it now. I'd rather see it not pass right now and have them go back to work and do a better job here, cutting spending. Cutting taxes is good. We need that. But better job cutting spending and then enshrining some of Donald Trump's policies on border, immigration, climate change, education into the bill.
I agree with everything you've just said, and in a way, it feels very hopeless because this deep state has been a part of our government. The establishment has been part of our government for so very long. On the other hand, I'm hearing a lot of conversation from the prophets about God being involved and actually intervening in the affairs of mankind and humanity worldwide, not just in America, but worldwide. And the economy is a place where a lot of people are talking and expecting great change. What do you say about that?
Well, there is going to be massive change in the years ahead. I mean, even just with the emergence of artificial intelligence, even if nothing else happened, the changes that we are going to see in the economy are dramatic. You know, they could go several ways. They could be, I think, very beneficial to humanity if we're careful with it, or they could be unbelievably destructive. So one of the things that we saw, one of the big debates in this big, beautiful bill was on this very subject of AI. The original bill that passed through the House had a ban on any state regulations of AI for 10 years if they wanted to participate in this massive $500 billion whatever infrastructure thing. Frankly, I think that's very dangerous, and I don't think it's constitutional. And I think the people who are arguing in favor of this are the very megalomaniacs that need to be restrained, right? And the state is actually the appropriate place to do it. So I was very concerned about that. Now, AI is an incredibly powerful tool, an incredibly powerful technology that can either liberate humanity from backbreaking labor, kind of like the Industrial Revolution created machinery and allowed us to access hydrocarbon fuels to liberate us from backbreaking labor. We could see something like that again, where AI would be used for doing a lot of the work that people don't necessarily like to do, raising the standard of living for everybody. And that would be a wonderful development. But in the hands of crazy totalitarians, it has the ability to reduce us to absolute slavery. And frankly, a lot of these tech bros who suddenly discovered that they really like Trump, I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. Peter Thiel comes to mind, right? The PayPal mafia. Palantir, which, as I understand, is now getting access to all the federal government's data. I mean, this stuff is out of control. So I would like to see these AI technologies be used in a free market kind of way for the benefit of humanity rather than by the government of the world, China, even the U.S. government, for the data gathering, data mining, surveillance, and control of humanity. So we're at a crossroads right now. I hope we go the right way, but no guarantees right now. So.
Absolutely. And this also brings to mind how much people put their trust in President Trump, where we really need and must be putting our trust in God. How about some closing comments before we take off here?
I think that's a really good thing to remind people of. The Bible says over and over again, don't put your trust in princes, don't put your trust in men, put your trust in God. That's where it belongs. Even if Donald Trump is everything we hope he will be, and I certainly hope and pray that he will be that, and we need to be in prayer for him and for his family and for his cabinet. We still need to keep our trust in God, not in a government or a politics or a political party. And that's important for us always to remember, even when we see good things happening and things that we like. So, I do think it's important for Christians to be involved in the public square, but let's never get sucked into putting our hope in politics. Let's always remember our hope needs to be in God. That's where it belongs, and God will never let us down.
Absolutely. Alex, I know you're pressed for time. I'll make sure all of your contact information is available to my listeners. Thank you once again, and I will have you back.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Pamela.
Thank you. According to Alex, the one big beautiful bill can result in the government getting whatever it wants, regardless of who's in power. With this, it seems President Trump is allowing the continuance of government operations according to the swamp status quo. But this is entirely contrary to his campaign promises. Given all that President Trump has accomplished in his first 6 months in office, I can't help but wonder if he doesn't have an additional plan to further expose the swamp as they next work to appropriate aspects of the one big beautiful bill. What if President Trump and his cabinet actually have a sting operation in place to catch guilty parties through the implementation of this massive bill? I don't know, but given what God has prophetically revealed, I have to wonder. I wholly agree with Alex that we need to get back to single-issue bills where it's clear what is being voted on, also allowing us a clear path to knowing who voted for what, to know if our elected representatives are actually representing their constituents or not. Alex said there is not enough of President Trump's agenda in the bill, but what if that is by design, to further expose the traitors in our government? I'm also on the same page as Alex when it comes to the AI and the big tech companies suddenly cozying up to President Trump. Peter Thiel and Palantir Technologies do not share the values for America and the American people I have and that President Trump has expressed. So again, I can't help but wonder if there will be an opportunity for them to come clean or be exposed and held accountable. In addition to trusting Alex Newman, I also trust the Heritage Foundation, a highly respected conservative think tank. About the One Big Beautiful Bill, they said, quote, "The Heritage Foundation generally supports the One Big Beautiful Bill because it aligns with several key conservative policy goals. They view it as a critical step in advancing President Trump's agenda, particularly in areas like tax cuts, border security, and energy policy. However, they also have some criticisms, particularly regarding the potential impact on the social safety net and the structure of the tax code," end quote. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, said about the One Big Beautiful Bill, quote, "This is about 90% of the America First agenda all lobbed into one giant piece of legislation. This legislation is arguably the most conservative legislation of our lifetime, and we got it done." Rather than approach legislation in small parts, House leadership opted for a bold, comprehensive strategy. The One Big Beautiful Bill consolidates years of conservative priorities into one-tone legislative push, signaling Republican readiness to govern decisively. End quote. One plus is that legislation is not subject to the same cancellation as executive orders are by incoming subsequent presidents. There is no shortage of published differing opinions about the One Big Beautiful Bill. When there are so many differences, I try to seek the Lord and step back to see the big picture. With that, I consider President Trump's experience in his first term, when he had so much to learn, especially who was to be trusted and who was not. While he made tremendous advances in his first term, the Biden administration reversed a lot that was not put into law. However, President Trump's judicial appointments remained. Some of his deregulation initiatives, border and trade policies remained, as did his executive order against drug trafficking. During his second term, President Trump has come on hot, fully armed with knowledge and allegiances he didn't have in his first term, including a much closer connection to God than ever before. His first 6 months' accomplishments are greater than any other president before. American Faith's article titled "Trump's 6-Month Victories Stunned the Nation" reported, quote, "President Donald Trump has notched a string of major victories just 6 months into his second term, fulfilling core campaign promises and setting the tone for America's 250th anniversary celebration." At the center of Trump's domestic agenda is the Big Beautiful Bill, a sweeping legislative package passed by the July 4th deadline. The bill makes tax cuts permanent, eliminates taxes on tips and overtime, increases immigration enforcement funding, and it secures the southern border. Since taking office, border crossings have dropped 93% compared to last year, and 0 illegal aliens have been released into the interior. The economy continues to defy expectations. In June, 147,000 jobs were added, and unemployment dropped to 4.1%. American-born workers gained 830,000 jobs, while foreign-born employment declined. Inflation hit a 4-year low, and gas prices reached a 4-year low as well, nearing a 20-year low when adjusted for inflation. Foreign policy wins include a peace deal between Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo, and a successful ceasefire with Iran following U.S. strikes. NATO members have agreed to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, meeting long-standing U.S. demands. On trade, reciprocal tariffs declared on Liberation Day have led to multiple new trade deals, including one with Vietnam. Investment is pouring into the United States, including $1.4 trillion from the United Arab Emirates and $500 billion each from Apple, Oracle, and Saudi Arabia. Trump also signed executive orders affirming 2 biological sexes and halted federal support for radical gender ideology. And he also signed Executive Order 13903, focusing on combating human trafficking, protecting victims, and prosecuting offenders. Additionally, the administration celebrated No Pride Month, marking a cultural shift. Other key victories include the Laken-Riley Act, the creation of Alligator Alcatraz to process illegal aliens, reduced egg prices, record-breaking stock market performance, and regulatory wins in the courts. Trump has decisively put America first back into action. End quote. It just doesn't make sense that President Trump would work so hard to fulfill his campaign promises, then work to have the One Big Beautiful Bill passed that seems to include measures that could counter all the hard work he's already put in, allowing the swamp to continue, as Alex stated, utilizing pork barrel spending. As Ken Buck explained in his book, such spending benefits a particular politician's district or constituency in effort to secure their reelection and strengthen their political position and that of their party. So it just doesn't make sense. In contemplating all of this, join me as I speculate on the significance of the sequence of actions President Trump has already taken. First, he reestablished and renewed the military with increased funding, removal of some personnel, and implementing policy shifts such as no more DEI. Now we boast the highest levels of recruitments seen in many years. He also signed an unprecedented number of executive orders to get the wheels of Congress to turn in a different direction without delay. He visited Saudi Arabia, a key factor in the Middle East, highlighting economic agreements, energy, defense, and technology, opening business between the two countries. Trump lifted Syrian sanctions to normalize relations with the new government. He included efforts to negotiate a deal with Iran over its nuclear program, addressed the Israel-Hamas war and the associated humanitarian crisis in Gaza, and pitched Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords and to recognize Israel all before the United States' involvement with Israel in the attacks on Iran's nuclear capabilities on June 22, 2025. He initiated tariffs, which he has said would be a tremendous method of generating revenue without taxing the American people, making funds available to use to reduce the overall deficit. Perhaps he established the tariffs before introducing the One Big Beautiful Bill, knowing he would need a method to counter the pork in the bill. He can't drain the swamp overnight, so I suspect he had to give the swamp creatures what they wanted to be able to get the good aspects of the bill passed. Remember, not a single Democrat voted for this bill, but all the Republican rhinos did. No doubt Trump had to include their pork just to get the bill passed, but that doesn't mean he doesn't still have a plan to drain the swamp. He also initiated the deportation of illegal immigrants before the United States' involvement with Israel. There were considerable warnings about terrorist sleeper cells being activated on July 4th in retaliation to the June 22nd bombing. Yet there were no reports of violence from sleeper cells through the entire Independence Day weekend. For reasons I think are yet to be revealed, President Trump pushed to have the One Big Beautiful Bill passed and signed by July 4th. Could this have something to do with the timing of the dissolution of the United States of America Corporation and the restoration of the true republic, the United States for America? President Trump has also vowed to restore election integrity, which is moving forward without mainstream media reporting on the serious exposure of criminal acts that have been taking place throughout our nation. We must have fair and honest elections moving forward to restore the power to we the people, and accountability for criminal actions, including holding Congress, men and women, to account for any and all acts of treason. Mainstream media is still on the payroll of the establishment, so we are not hearing about this actually taking place from them, but we are hearing about treasonous accountability from God through the prophecies he's given in recent days. Now, I'm not ready to throw President Trump under the bus for the One Big Beautiful Bill and the recent claims about the Epstein case. Not at this time, because I believe there is much more truth yet to be revealed. Now, let me share with you what God has said through his prophets. Pastor Hank Kunneman spoke about the One Big Beautiful Bill on July 3rd during the Flashpoint event, where he and Lance Wallnau, among others, were on the panel of speakers. Here's what Hank had to say.
Here's the thing. For so long in our country, it's been the big, beautiful burden. And we've had to pay for it and carry it. And the Democrats didn't care. They did it to us. So now God has stepped in. And this is called the Big Beautiful Blow. And to Lance's point of the parting of the Red Sea, God has been saying this. I am dealing with a leftist pursuit like Pharaoh and the Egyptian army was pursuing from the left to try to take out a nation. And God stepped in and delivered them. In Psalm 105:37, are you ready? God led them out with silver and gold, and there was not one feeble among them. And here is the point of this. This is really, here's what God said. When they speak words in your country like recession, depression, inflation, Spirit of God said it is a sign that I am saying acceleration. And that's where we're going. So those of you that are watching that you are not on board, you need to trust this, because this is about to become in your life and this country the big, beautiful blessing.
Now, let me share with you what God said through Julie Green, which she posted on July 3rd, 2025. This should definitely encourage you.
Your enemies know how powerful you are, and it's now time, my children, that you know it too. So you can take back what belongs to you. You ask, Lord, how do we overcome all of this? It seems too impossible to overcome, to be able to get to a place, to freedom from giants in our land and to restore what has been destroyed. My children, I am the Most High God. Did you not see that I saved your president from those bullets in Butler? I saved him from numerous assassination attempts. I stopped the impeachments. I stopped the indictments. And I stopped them from stealing the whole election in 2024. Do you not see I'm already working, protecting, avenging, judging, and restoring your nation? Oh, my United States, you are precious to me. I don't see your nation defeated, and I don't see your nation as impossible to fix. I will say this again, my United States, you are becoming great again. You're becoming strong again, because you are praying again. You'll be beautiful once again. Your enemies are nothing in my sight, and everything they have done can and will be undone by me. My children, don't you see me working and moving on your behalf? If your enemies had their way, your country would have already been dead. Your freedoms completely decimated. And there would have been more of a genocide, not only that would have occurred in this country, but around the world. Your enemies have done a lot against you. They have thrown almost everything they can at you. They've attacked you with almost everything in their arsenal. They thought you would have given up a long time ago. They thought your country would have already been theirs. They thought they would have brainwashed you enough that you would go along with their plans and you wouldn't resist them anymore. But you are still standing. You're still resisting. You're still fighting. And they can't comprehend how this is possible. That my nation and my children are still pushing back. Instead of you growing weaker, you are becoming stronger. Your enemies don't see me, that I am fighting your battles, and your enemies are already defeated. My United States, you will see the establishment be wiped out by me. You will see the gutting of all their systems, all their protection, all their plans. I will say this again. Every Washington deep state puppet will all be removed. Everything they have stolen from this country will be given back. You will see a new nation. You will see a new government. You will see a new financial system. You will see a new tax system. You will see a new judicial system. You will see a new military. You will see a new and strong, bold body of Christ, standing up and resisting and praying and not backing off and not quitting against any type of adversity. My United States, you are mine. I am your protector and your avenger. Millions upon millions have cried out to me for your victory. And I've heard the cries of my people. And I am delivering you out of everything your enemies have put you in. So hold on, my United States. Things are about to shake. Things are about to intensify. Things are about to look unprecedented, abnormal, and some things will look worse. But never forget who I am. Always remember that I am the great I am. This nation is being completely set free from this tyranny that has been holding you hostage. Your country is being reborn, renewed, restored, and revitalized. You are about to see your enemies flee for your great victory, says the Lord of hosts.
I ask you to consider this. So much of what we contemplate for our future is based on what we have always known, how things have always been. But God has said through his prophets that he is in the process of radically changing everything, which means our future projections, based on what has been, are not accurate because everything will be very different. If you think about it, we citizens of America are in a similar situation to the citizens of Iran. We need government reformation, and the only way it can be achieved is by we, the people, taking back what belongs to us, which is exactly what God says he wants his people to do as he reestablishes many things to make it possible for us. Pray for God's people all around the world to be bold and responsive to everything God is asking us to do. It is not God's will that evil people be in positions of leadership. Pray for President Trump to be led by God, to be a willing vessel in God's hands, to accomplish all God intends. Pray the same for Prime Minister Netanyahu and all the government leaders of the world. Pray asking God what he wants you to do to help restore your nation's government. Beyond prayer, he may be calling you to local, state, or federal service. God has said through his prophecy, while he's at work to make America great again, he's also at work in all the nations of the world to bring righteousness, to prepare the way for his glory in a harvest of souls, revival, deliverance, and healing such as the world has never seen. Next week, I will again have Alex Newman as my guest, where we consider the continued concern over the Middle East, the governments of the world, and more. Now, I ask you to listen to my closing announcements and to take advantage of the many goods and services I bring you in an effort to at least cover the costs of this podcast. The first announcement clarifies more about the changes to our Greece tour, now scheduled for April 2026. The first deposit for the cruise portion is due this month. Those who signed up can expect an email from us very soon to help you with that deposit. I truly want you to be able to join us, so please listen carefully and send me the email to save your place according to the instructions you're about to hear. It may seem far off, but most people make plans for a significant vacation about a year in advance. So if you haven't already expressed interest in traveling with us in April 2026, now is the time to do so. We want to have about 30 people total because this size group works best for the specific tour I have in mind. We'll be walking the footsteps of the Apostle Paul. I'm using the time between now and October 2025 to determine if we have enough interest, and the trend indicates we definitely should. We have just about 30 people on the list now, but I'd like to have more because when it comes to the actual day of making a commitment, things could have changed, and I want to be able to have at least 30 actually attend the tour. So, if you think you'd like to be part of the Faith to Live By Christian tour with me in Greece during April 2026, Now's the time to get your name and number in your party on the list. There's no obligation at this point, you're just expressing your interest. Attendees need to arrange their own air travel to and from the Athens International Airport. To get your name on the list, send an email to faithtoliveby@PamelaChristianMinistries.com with the word Greece in the subject line. In the body of the email, provide your name, contact information, and number of people you expect to be in your party. This will place your name on the interested in attending list, but does not obligate you in any way. It merely assures you have first right of refusal when down payments are due. If you didn't get the details written down that I just shared, simply visit my Beyond the Podcast page using the link in the show notes. If you like what you hear from me with this podcast, I highly recommend my book series, my award-winning blog, and consider signing up for my certificate course in apologetics. My aim with that course is to help people learn how not only to use apologetics to share truth with others, but to help Christian leaders incorporate apologetics into their respective ministries so more Christians are learning how to share their faith. You can learn more by using the link in the show notes. For now, I offer my weekly podcasts, my blog, and bi-monthly e-newsletter at no cost. And certainly I have hard costs associated with doing all I do. If you've been blessed by my work and would like to help my work reach others, why not consider partnering with me? For as little as $10 a month, you can become a partner. Then together we can reach even more people for Jesus. Simply visit my Pamela Christian Ministries homepage and then click on the Give button at the top menu bar. Or if you prefer, you can go directly to the Give page using the link in the show notes. To become a partner, you can use my PayPal or Venmo account, but you will also see other ways you can support my work on that page. Whether you choose to become a monthly partner, give a one-time donation, purchase my books and products from my web store, or support my affiliate sponsors, anything you can do to help me continue this work would be greatly appreciated. And as always, your prayers and telling others about me and my ministry work is much needed. When it comes to my selection of affiliate sponsors, I first look for Christian-owned and operated businesses, and I make a point of personally using the products or services so I can fully endorse them. I seek sponsors that offer products or services you can get via the internet worldwide, and I specifically consider what is common to most people universally. So you'll find health, beauty, and wellness products through Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements and from QE Strong. Dr. Zelenko's Z-Stack supplements are truly amazing and are available to my listeners for a 5% discount per purchase or a 10% discount for a monthly subscription using the promo code FTLB. You may have heard my interview with Rob Renee about QE Strong. Discover the benefits of quantum energy to overcome all sorts of ailments. Visit QEstrong.com and use the promo code FTLB at checkout to receive your discount. Then my newest affiliate I'm really excited to bring you is Q Streaming. That's CUE Streaming Television. People with United States addresses can get over 3,000 channels, including live TV with streaming television without a contract. Get all of your local networks and favorite movie and sports and pay-per-view channels for about half of what cable costs. See the video promo link in the show notes to learn more. Affiliate sponsors only provide financial support to me when you purchase what they offer. So before you support Amazon or any other retailer, if I offer what you're looking for, please purchase through me. When it comes to special occasions, birthdays, or Christmas gifts, consider my books, jewelry, CDs, and more from my web store or any of the affiliate goods and services I offer. When you purchase from my web store, be sure to use the promo code TRUTH, TRUTH, to receive a 20% discount. Again, you'll find all the links in the show notes. If you like the content and resource material I bring you with this podcast, you'll find much more by connecting with me through my blog. In fact, my blog has been awarded 2 unsolicited awards for Christian content. And I'm also very active on social media. I can cover much more on social media than I can with this weekly podcast. And if you're not already subscribed, please subscribe to my complimentary bi-monthly e-newsletter. I offer encouragement, special offers, and one of my signature recipes with each and every edition. Yep, I'm a foodie and I love to entertain, which is why Faith, Family, Friends, and Food is a bonus segment of my bi-monthly e-newsletter. To receive even more, please be sure to check out my dedicated podcast listeners page, Beyond the Podcast. Here's where we can connect exclusively and you can download complimentary devotionals, resources, and more. On that page, I also ask you to help me learn more about you and what you want by completing the form visible once you scroll down that page. And something that is very easy for you to do and would mean a lot to me is for you to rate, subscribe, or comment on this podcast according to what your preferred listening platform allows. You know how it works. The more likes and subscriptions to this podcast, the more opportunity we have to expand the listening audience. And that means we can reach more people with the gospel message of Jesus while helping people learn how to better apply their Christian faith. I hope you'll join me next week and tell your friends and family to listen right here on Faith to Live By, where we learn how to gain spiritual victory over life's issues. Until next week, I'm Pam Christian, asking you to remember, Christ died for us. The least we can do is live for Him.